Hello and welcome to Picture Astrology. In this quick video, we will talk about placement of Saturn in the sign of Virgo. And as always, our emphasis will be on the practical aspect of the astrological placement. And at the same time, we will also see a very important remedy at the end of this video. And remedies for Saturn's placement is especially important because Saturn, among other things, shows the debts of your past life or karmas which you need to sort of settle and repay in this life. And therefore, any remedy which is according to the placement of Saturn in your chart can help relieve the burden of karma in a much quicker way. And we will see one such remedy for Saturn in Virgo later in the video. But first, let's quickly recap what is Saturn. Saturn, as we know, is the slowest and the coldest planet which is considered in Vedic astrology because we only consider planets visible through human eye. And also it is planet of dispassionate actions which have no emotions attached, and therefore it shows justice and by extension law and rules. Whereas the sign of Virgo is one ruled by Mercury, and Saturn and Mercury are good friends. Secondly, Virgo is an earthy sign, and earth, as you know, has a lot of inertia. The basic property of earth is to keep things in the steady state, keep things the way they are, have a lot of inertia basically. And such a stable environment is obviously preferred by a slow and cold planet like Saturn. And although Virgo is earthy, the mode of functioning is dual. And that's what makes this sign one of the most analytical sign in the entire zodiac. And the best way to understand this is to see the functioning of the organ intestine, because Virgo actually covers the body part or area of body which contains intestines. And what happens in intestine is the solid food, solid means earthy, food goes through a long tunnel of to and fro motion. In the intestine, the food slowly travels with the bowel motion up and down, forward and backward little bit, and during this whole process minute nutrients are absorbed in the body, whereas everything else is discarded. And that kind of keen eye and that extreme attention to detail, almost to the point of being nitpicky, is what is imparted by this placement of Saturn in the sign of Virgo. Because Saturn is, as you know, very slow and deliberate planet. It loves this environment. And thus people with this placement can become a very good manager, and they might have the tendency to micromanage things. But one more thing is, Virgo is the Mool Trikona sign of the planet Mercury, and therefore it brings about some of the best qualities which Mercury represents. And one important quality which can be understood if you again see this symbol of Virgo more closely. So the symbol basically represents a young girl who is holding some grain in one hand, and on the other hand she holds something like a lantern, a source of light. And the original symbol actually depicts that the girl is sitting in a small boat on top of a sea or an ocean. So this sign of Virgo basically represents a lot of limitation. You can clearly see in this kind of situation there are very limited resources, a finite amount of grain, little bit of fire, and you are pretty much stuck in a tiny boat in the middle of basically nowhere in the deep sea, or actually at the top of the sea. So here you definitely have a very limited amount of resources, and a prudent use of resources is absolutely mandatory in this situation. And Virgo sign shows that the intellectual abilities of Mercury are directed in a very practical way. Earth shows practicality, things which work in this world, ideas, thoughts and tricks which you can actually implement in life. That's the quality of earthy sign. So intellect, which is represented by Mercury, directed in a very practical way to manage the limited resources. And as you know, Saturn also shows limitation. Saturn is also the planet of constraints, debts imparted to you from previous lives. So this placement of Saturn in the sign of Virgo gives a great tendency or a great temperament to be able to utilize limited resources in a good way. Now, Saturn also shows your work life, and at the same time, being the Karma Karka planet, it shows the success you get due to your karmas in this life as well. Now, another aspect of this limited resources environment provided by Virgo to the Karma Karka planet is that people with this placement will generally begin small and then slowly rise up in life. And just like the sign of Virgo, they initially at least they have to work really hard. In the younger age, at least in their 20s, they work very hard and then they shine in the life, but they learn important lessons about managing and working through a limited set of resources. Now, one very important aspect about Saturn related or Virgo related to health is that in Vedic astrology, Virgo is considered to be very important sign when it comes to overall good health of the individual. And as you know, there is this old saying also that if you keep your stomach happy, then more than half of your health problems can be solved. And Virgo represents that area of stomach, the intestines. And planet Saturn, which represents among other things obstacles of life, and in human body it can represent any kind of blockage which stops the normal flow of fluid, or in this case it can show problem related to intestine, indigestion or related issues. When indigestion is not taken care of, it can manifest itself in multiple other ways. So one thing which is always recommended for Saturn in Virgo is to keep your stomach in good health all the time. Now, one aspect of this placement which you probably wouldn't hear people talk so much, and that is that Mercury is considered to be a neutral planet. It is, considered neither male nor female planet. And though it is known as the prince in Vedic astrology or prince among the planet, what it basically means that it's a young boy. A boyish charm is there, but not the full grown male adult. Similarly, Saturn is also another planet which shows neutrality. Generally, Saturn is also not assigned manliness or womanliness. And though these two properties find a great resemblance here, this affects, male and female horoscope little differently. Say, for example, in a female chart, it can indicate that the woman who, kind of keeps herself or like to dress herself simply, doesn't like to dress up a lot or doesn't like to put on makeup a lot, more simple and natural appearance. And obviously this placement can also give the younger looking or at least little bit younger than the actual age kind of personality for both male and female. And in men's chart, it can show the lack of aggression, somebody who doesn't really like to get into fight or brawls with others, and instead, as you know, Virgo is the sign of analysis, likes to just fight through words, get they can get into verbal spat with others but avoid physical aggression. And similarly, there's one aspect of this neutral tendency can actually show many more tendencies depending upon other influences, and we will probably talk about them in details when we look at Saturn in Virgo for each individual ascendant. Now let's come to the remedy part, which I was talking about in the beginning. And we saw that Saturn is the debts of your past lives or the karmas which you need to settle. And Virgo is a young girl, a girl who is just about reaching puberty but not quite there. And so one thing which is very imperative for Saturn in Virgo is being respectful towards women, especially the young ones, and if possible, helping them in some way or the other. Like if you can sponsor, say, education for a girl child, or just take part in various initiatives which take care of young kids, and especially the female kids. If you have a daughter, take good care of her. In doing just those very simple and practical things, you will find that you will be able to repay the karmas of this life in a much easier way. So friends, this was my quick snapshot analysis of Saturn in the sign of Virgo. Please do like and subscribe to my channel, and also hit the bell button if you like this analysis. I really thank you for being with me so far, and I will hope to see you again soon. Bye bye.